Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. First order business, I want to say thank you to the new subscribers. Second order business, you might be wondering why in the world I'm in this Bavarian outfit. Well, it's because I need my roots done. And so this Bavarian hat with its flare that I'm now hearing has a bell attached to it, so that's probably going to distract me just a little bit. So if you see me doing side chuckles, that's probably because I'm going to move my head around and the bell's going to go off and it's going to make me laugh. So anyway, third order of business is very important. That's the following information is now in the public domain, and it's also readily available to be obtained from the associated family, the civil, the criminal courts in each jurisdiction that's going to be discussed today. So people are already discussing the topics I'm going to discuss in this video. And the reason I'm looking into these older cases is to understand the psychology of Lori Vallow and the people around her. All the comments in this video and in this timeline, the excess comments are my opinion only. Opinions are not facts. This video will be discussing sensitive matters and the children allegedly involved in sensitive matters. So there's a trigger warning being activated. Activated, all right? Trigger warning. If you don't like that, right now is the time to click off. We'll talk about other stuff on another video. If this upsets you, stop watching the video now. Further, if you believe that we should only focus on the current criminal charges against Lori and against Chad and not look into any other alleged manipulations that Lori could have performed or how Lori came to be how she is now, then stop the video. Okay, because this won't make you happy. I'm going to say this loud and clear, so don't leave comments to the contrary. This video is not going to demonize any victims, all right? I've chosen to redact specific names of the people who are minors at the time, but who have not come forth publicly. Now, if they've come forth publicly, then they're going to be mentioned, all right? So don't come at me for discussing these cases until and unless you watch the entire video, all right? Fair enough? If you watch the whole thing and felt I've been unfair, that's fine. But if you're going to listen to this intro, read the title, and blast me, that's unfair. But, do what thou wilt. This video just might show how, in my opinion, an alleged narcissist can destroy entire families and engage in crazy making. Finally, you also might want to think about that if in the current criminal case, if the door gets opened by the state, or even in the penalty phase, if it goes to penalty phases, the defense attorneys are more than likely going to try to bring this out in court anyway, or maybe even lob a random question at a witness. So it's really likely that some of this will come out at some point. So let's get into it. Timeline: Travis County, Texas. It's July 16th, 1995, and Lori Cox's soon-to-be husband, William John Lagoya, I'm probably mispronouncing it, I'm going to stay with Lagoya, allegedly assaults Lori Cox by hitting her mouth with his hand and throwing her on a bed. The responding officer notes a small injury on her upper lip on the inside of her mouth. October 22nd, 1995. Lori Noreen Cox marries William John Lagoya. So I guess they made up from the earlier assault that was called in. February 21st, 1996, in an affidavit, pregnant Lori Cox Lagoya swears that William John Lagoya has made threats on her life and has been mentally and physically abusing her for 3 years. She alleged that on February 12, 1996, he threatened to snap her neck if she calls police again. He allegedly made threats to kill her, her unborn child, and any police who arrive. William goes to jail in Austin, Texas. April 8th, 1996, Colby is born to Lori and William John Lagoya. July 13, 1996, Brackettville, Texas. William John Lagoya gets baptized into the Mormon faith. In the next document that's filed, it's a criminal complaint. Lori does allege that the only reason he did this was essentially to curry favor with her, and that she, foolishly in good faith was trying to always make up with him. Again, as this goes along, the picture seems to be painted as Lori's a victim. Lori's a victim of domestic violence. But you start to wonder, through the decades, does Lori have a bad picker? Does she just pick bad husbands, bad boyfriends that turn into husbands? Or is the common denominator Lori? December 4th, 1996, in a criminal complaint against William and Vito Lagoya, that's the father, her father-in-law, there's a statement of facts in which Lori alleges that William John Lagoya took advantage of her good faith. If you decide to read the original documents in full, which I encourage, I also encourage you to keep some aspirin and some antacid handy for headaches when you read the recitation by Lori in her affidavits against anyone, and that paint a true victim. You know, everything she does, somebody's taking advantage of her, they're taking her money, they're hurting her, they're just not truthful, and they're not evil, but they're not light. You know, they're not conforming to religious beliefs. This is always a pattern, in my opinion, that you see. So, December 4th, 1996, in a criminal complaint against William and Vito Lagoya, Lori alleges that William took advantage of her good faith, imprisoned her by taking her car that she paid for, that was in her name, not letting her drive said car, had one-night stands, passed out drunk, thereby finally allowing her to flee with the child, but leaving her clothes and possessions, which is mainly the thing that's mentioned over and over and over. It's very much driven by possessions, this document. Her father-in-law, Vito Lagoya, told her to leave the house, but without the baby. Seemingly the father didn't like Lori at all. He had her number, in my opinion. And Vito says, quote, this is according to Lori, but it sounds pretty accurate. Listen up, because I'm only going to say this to you once. If you leave again in the middle of the night and take Colby, then I will charge you with kidnapping, and I will charge your whole family with harboring. Because she had already taken off in the past. She'd taken the baby and run off to allegedly to the Cox family household, and Vito was not having it. The couple go back and forth, literally and figuratively, and the husband keeps her belongings in this case. She alleged that he used baby Colby's welfare card. In the same breath, she also talks about how she's been holding down the fort in the past, had made $45,000 a year while he was a slacker and did nothing, didn't, spend a damn penny to even, for a pot to piss in, and she'd made all this money, but then in the next breath, she's talking about the welfare card. So you want to go, which is it? Did you make the money? I don't know. So maybe it's both. Maybe at that time, we're talking 1996, one wouldn't think that if you made $45,000 you could get welfare, but maybe you could. At this point, I don't know. She also alleged that he damaged her credit eventually because the car ended up being repoed. There's a whole long story that's told in dramatic fashion if you read the affidavit. I've condensed it all down into one little paragraph for you. Basically, Lori's concerned about money, in my opinion. She alleges that she paid for Vito's family food, like $300 worth of food, and said he's essentially just mad. Her stepfather's just mad because Lori leaving is taking food out of his own mouth. Yeah, okay. That's it. I think she even says foolishly and in good faith in her story, and I thought that was perfect. Perfect victimhood, in my opinion, to call this video Foolishly and in Good Faith, the Lori Vallow story. December 17th, 1996, Lori files for divorce from William Lagoya. Okay, so let's switch it up and go to the Charles Vallow side of the historical documents. April 9th, 2003, Charles Vallow and Cheryl Vallow have been married about 12 years, and it's in Travis County, Texas. Cheryl files a divorce affidavit and a request for a TRO. That's a temporary restraining order. Now, I'm not going to get into the story of this one. Allegedly, Charles had some anger issues, and allegedly there were some dispute with the child, and I guess they were arguing about a stuffed animal or something, and so basically they're having a divorce with, now they're going to have a little bit of custody issues. In this document filed April 9th, 2003, she also mentions that Charles is bipolar, and I only mention that because A, it's in documents, B, he admits to being bipolar, and C, it might seek to explain his mental state and maybe what he's willing to put up with from Lori, and also maybe how he handles things with Lori. Charles admits he's bipolar, and he says he takes Depakote to keep it under control. So let's no shade, just understand the dynamics of what's going on. And in my opinion, like I said, how Charles Vallow could maybe be manipulated by Lori, or maybe be caught up in the drama of Lori at sometimes. Just a thought. From what I can deduce from the Vallow divorce documents in sum toto, they'll have disagreements over things, but it's not like terribly acrimonious. And I'm giving you an overview, and then I'm going to get into the documents. Other than initial spats, it's not really terribly acrimonious. They're not nasty, all right? And also you have to keep in mind, sometimes the attorneys make things seem a certain way, like more, and they're really not. They just want to make a point, or make their money, or make their ruling go their way. Just because someone swears to something in an affidavit doesn't make it true. They're swearing to it, though, and it's in the record, so you can talk about it. It doesn't necessarily make it true. Having said all that, it does seem that Charles and Cheryl can manage to get along to some degree. February 2006, Lori marries Charles Vallow. Buckle up, buttercups. Buckle up. What I'm going to tell you goes down in July. So she marries Charles in February, and by the time July hits, trouble. And you got to wonder, why? How is it that drama will follow this woman like a bad scent? Can it be that everybody in the world lies about her? Everybody in the world is evil and dark? Everybody in the world is filled with drama, and she's the poor little perpetual victim? Or is she the common denominator? That's what I want to posit to you, because as the weight of all the history adds up, it just makes you go, all these people can't be crazy. Her pricker can't be that bad. She can't make all the children around her go do bad things. Because I don't think it's true, folks. That's my opinion. So buckle up, buttercups. August 18, 2006. Lori states that in July of 2006, Tylee's become resistant to going to Joe Ryan's house. So Tylee is 3 years old and allegedly told Lori that Joe Ryan's been crashing into her. So Lori claims that Colby then disclosed on August 6, 2006, that Joe had been inappropriate with him 2 years prior. So you got to think. Let's step back. February, she marries Charles. July, she's now backdating this to say Tylee didn't want to go to Joe. She was showing a little bit of reluctance. And then August, now coming out with an outcry from Colby. Now Lori's in a new relationship. In my opinion, the minute she gets a new situation, she has no use for the one before, even if there's a child involved. So August 18, 2006, Lori states that in July 2006, so she's backdating it, Tylee had allegedly become resistant to going to Joe Ryan's house. She's 3 years old, Tylee. And Tylee allegedly told Lori that Joe had been crashing into her. So Lori claims that Colby then becomes an outcry witness, essentially, disclosing on August 6, 2006, that Joe had been inappropriate with him 2 years before. Okay, so February 2006, Lori marries Charles. By July, Lori's now saying that in July, Tylee doesn't really want to go see her father anymore. But she didn't do anything about it until August, when on August 6th, Colby outcries that Joe's been inappropriate with him. So now Lori's out of the relationship with Joe completely. She's got Charles in the bag. She's married to him, and now she's going to come forward with this. Now, I'm not saying I don't believe Colby. I'm not saying that. I believe in believing a victim. I just think that there sure are coincidences that can't be ruled out. So on August 8th, 2006, the detectives interview Tylee, Colby, and Lori regarding Joe Ryan's sexual abuse allegations. Tylee's only 3 years old. She's interviewed. She's asked about sleeping with her father in bed, and she says that she sleeps with Joe because she's scared of monsters. She notes that sometimes Colby, son of William John Lagoya, doesn't like it because Dad presses him down. Tylee says she is not scared of Daddy, and this kind of goes back and forth, but Tylee denied that anyone ever looked at her body parts. So they go over the what's underneath the bikini or the underwear type thing, and she can recognize, and she says what she calls each body part, and she denies anyone ever looked at them. So that's Tylee's initial interview. Then Colby is interviewed right after Tylee. He's 10 years old. So Colby is the outcry witness, but he's saying this happened 2 years before. So he's saying this happened to me when I was 8. Not now, all right? He said that he was molested, and he defines molested for the interviewer and stated that his stepfather, Joe Ryan, did it to him when he was 8. He's now 10. He said that he got back rubs from Joe, and then Joe placed his private part on Colby's leg. It's more explicit. I don't find the need to make the point with you. If you want to go look at the original documents, go right ahead. But I'm going to give it to you in a way that YouTube probably won't find as offensive. Colby said that Joe threatened him that if he told Lori that Joe would kill her. Colby said that he attempted to tell Lori, but Joe followed him like in a closet, and he didn't tell Lori, and then Colby ended up spanked. I don't know if he's trying to say that Joe kind of knew that what he was going to say, like, come here, I want to tell you something, and then Lori went in the closet with him, and Joe got an idea. Colby didn't say anything, but he ended up spanked. Detailing the abuse, Colby said that Joe tried to pull down Colby's pants 4 more times, so I think 5 total occasions, and then Colby would run and hide. He admits to some dry humping, but there was no skin-to-skin contact. So if you think about it, if anyone was to go and do a physical examination of Colby, there wouldn't be any evidence of any kind of molestation. Just note that. In an interview with Charles in the room. Okay, so we move on from Colby. We go to Lori. Charles is in the room for this interview. Lori claims that she discovered hundreds of gay porn sites on Joe's computer while she was married to him. Men-on-men porn, but not children. Lori claims that she challenged Joe on his alleged porn habit, and then she left him after that. Take that for what you will. Note, for those that are now getting mad that I'm mentioning this, Colby said on Dateline, that's public television, that Joe Ryan sexually assaulted him. Since Colby is willing to speak publicly on many outlets actually about this, I proffer that this is open to discussion. If you don't think they're going to bring it up in court, then you're going to be really shocked when they do. Just saying. Okay, so April 9th, 2007. Cheryl, Charles's ex, mother of his 2 children, alleged that during a visitation with Charles and Lori, Colby Ryan allegedly abused her sons. So, Colby Ryan was allegedly abused in the past by Joe. A guardian ad litem was appointed and wanted both Colby and Lori to undergo psychosexual evaluations because 2 of the children of Cheryl and Charles made some allegations at the hands of stepbrother Colby. And here's what they alleged. They alleged that Colby made some sexually graphic comments, things like, Colby shows me his private parts. And when he was asked to stop, that he didn't. And that one of the sons said, I'm afraid of him. And allegedly Colby witnessed Lori and Charles in a sex act. or acts. I'm not sure. I don't know if he was just spying on his parents. Some kids go and get a peep. Heck, I don't know. But obviously, if he did that, then he told the stepbrothers or brother. Colby is also allegedly sexualized because of what Joe did to him. This is what Cheryl is saying that she's getting through her children. Cheryl feels that the Vallow household is unsafe for children. Cheryl also states that Charles is bipolar, which we've noted before, that he takes his meds inconsistently and mixes alcohol with the meds. So Cheryl thinks that the stress of Lori's legal battle with Joe Ryan is what's making Charles self-medicate. I get a feeling that Cheryl has some compassion for Charles. You could really sometimes feel the venom behind some court documents. I don't necessarily feel the venom coming from Cheryl. I get the feeling that Cheryl might understand that Charles is a little out of his depth and just not emotionally and mentally able to handle this. That's the feeling I get, because she says that she thinks the stress of Lori's legal battle with Joe is making Charles self-medicate. She doesn't say Charles is a horrible person or something like that. She also added that when one of her sons couldn't sleep at her house, started like kind of asking her for a sleeping pill, and she just went, what? And he also saw an ad for Lunestra that popped up on the television, and he said, oh, that's what Dad gives us to go to sleep. And so Cheryl also alleged that her son stated that Dad and Lori give him what appears to be NyQuil, like he says, talk about the green capsules, and practically shove it down the kids' throats. So she added that the children witnessed excessive fighting between Lori and Charles. An example was given about Lori and Charles fighting in a car, and then Lori like being mad at Charles and grabbing the wheel, and that this terrified one of the sons. They thought that there was going to be a car accident. Basically, in sum, what Cheryl was saying is she, at that point in time, she didn't feel that it was healthy for her children in that household. Didn't say Charles is a horrible person, you should never see his kids or anything like that. Just not safe in that household. So on June 14, 2007, there's a letter to the judge describing the contents of cameras installed in the Vallo home, because what the court opted to do was to allow the Vallows, or ordered the Vallows, to put cameras in the home to watch the goings on. And so 3 motion detective cameras with video monitoring were installed, and one of the Vallo boys' room had a camera aimed at, it was a bunk bedroom, aimed near that bed area. A second was in Colby Ryan's bedroom, and a third was in the family room or the den. And the videos captured 2 periods of time that allegedly were when the sons had visitation at the Vallo home, but it didn't capture any suspicious behavior on the videos. There were many blank sections in the video, omissions, if you will. For example, one Vallo child never appears in any video, allegedly, according to this letter to the judge. It did note that they didn't see anything suspicious on the cameras. One could argue that when you know there's a camera aimed right at you, that you're going to behave yourself, or you're going to do whatever hinky stuff you're going to do outside the camera range. But I assert that there was nothing on those cameras. So on July 2007, Joe Ryan submits himself for a sex offender assessment. It's a family and community risk assessment. And this is a really rigorous assessment, guys. This is not just some talk to somebody for 30 minutes and let him go thing. This is a complete assessment that he submits himself to because he wants to prove that he is not a sex offender. Lori Vallow had accused him of child sex abuse and that he was in possession of pornography. And Joseph Ryan went out of his way to prove that this was untrue. Additionally, Joe told the examiner that he was frightened and anxious about the safety of Tylee now, with the possibility of being around one or more males who may be sexually inappropriate with her. Because now he's hearing about the stuff that's going down at the Vallo home, allegedly. Joe admits, he goes through all these different tests, and you can read them and look at the results, and there's absolutely, everything seems within normal levels. But the one thing I will say, that he admits to rape and dominance fantasies that he used to play with Lori. She would initiate this sex play, so she liked it. Allegedly. His test shows some bisexual interest, no to low interest in male or female children. So it was like pretty much no reaction at all. And they used the ABEL, I don't know if it's called ABLE. Now, it's visual reaction time. I did not look this test up. I know I should have before I got on here. But back in the day when they did these tests, I don't know if it's the ABLE, but they would, how do I say this on the internet? You have a private part when you're a man, and they'd put a cuff around this private part, and they'd show you all these pictures of different things, and it would register when you would get excited. And they can judge what you're interested in. I'm sure it's a lot more sensitive than it used to be. I don't know. I just have read something about it a million years ago. But in some, Joe had normal sexual interests. He didn't react to things that would make someone that was interested in children react. They can't control their private part. So Lori had expressed to the examiner in Joe's sexual assessment that she had concerns that Joe would use his charm, his tricks, to win favor with the examiner. In other words, to curry favor with the examiner. But what I find is the examiner might have had her number. And what I'm going to do is, under false allegations and recantations, I'm going to read to you what the examiner wrote about Miss Lori indirectly. Okay, so this is a test. These are all tests. So you have to get past the scientific data and the percentages. And she talks about something that they look at to talk about false allegations and recantations, all right? She doesn't say Lori Vallow has done this, but I'm going to go through this with you, and your eyes are probably going to open. So, they say, we now know from the work at Emory University that less than 17% of cases have medical evidence. So with this history in mind, let's look at the data. 1, is there a custody dispute? Yes, and there has been for nearly 4 years. The hysteria seems to be repeatedly connected to pornography. To date, no history of child pornography has been illuminated. The father who uses the pornography seems to be fairly open and honest regarding the interest and the need, like, for example, medicine storage. Oh, in other words, like he keeps the pornography that he's viewed in the past locked up. Okay. 2, is there a Confederate, a single and consistent person who continues to make accusations of sexual abuse? Yes. Does this Confederate show signs or medical histories of histrionic, paranoia, fanaticism, and or borderline personality? Yes. The most common Confederates are Caucasian females, usually the mother, Caucasian maternal grandmothers, or Latinos. Yes. Is there a situation between the mother and the alleged injured child that seems symbiotic or injurious? No. I submit now, yes. Are there professionals involved in the case who may have a predetermined notion of the facts of the case? Perhaps, because there were a lot of professionals involved. 7, has the child been repeatedly interviewed? Yes. Does there appear to be a pattern of moving the child from professional to professional, or taking the child repeatedly to the same professional in an effort to get a statement that no one has heard but the Confederate? Yes. Has a professional, 9, has a professional with a forensic background interviewed the child and seen no reason for protection? Yes. Has the child made a statement to any skilled and specifically trained professional that he or she has not been sexually abused, and of great import made a statement to the professional that he or she is being coached? Yes. Does the Confederate have a history of abuse? Unsolved. Perhaps. Think that. Listen to this. So let's listen to the following paragraph. During an interview on March 23, 2007 with the mother and the child, Tylee, this examiner utilized a formal interview protocol. During that interview, Tylee was asked, "Who is Joe?" Answer, "He's my old daddy." My new daddy is Charles. The child was asked, has Joe ever hurt or injured you? No. Repeated her answer, no, and she confirmed that no, Daddy Joe has not hurt her. The child was asked about the places on her body where the bathing suit fit or go. She recognized this area clearly and free of confusion. The examiner asked, has anyone bothered you in those areas, hurt you or tickled you? All separate. Answer, no. This examiner asked, has anyone told you or made you come here today and tell me about Daddy Joe? Child's answer, yes. Examiner asked who? Child answered, Colby and Charles. End interview. This examiner wanted to stay away from repetitive questions. When the child made these statements, the mother's jaw dropped, eyes widened, and she appeared shocked. She did not seem fearful that she was in trouble. Rather, she seemed in disbelief and shock. The mother, Ms. Vallow, has explained to me on many occasions that she speaks with her deceased sister and believes that Tylee is the reincarnation of her sister. Ms. Vallow is deeply religious and seems genuinely so. However, she has also explained that her last attorney, Mr. Ted Terry, has come to her, instructing her to attend his funeral and to explain to his ex-spouse that he loved her. She also mentions other ghost conversations and directives from her God. The mother has accused the father of forcing the child to drink a yellow drink, lemino or lemino. When talking to the father about treats and snacks, he mentions that beverages such as Gatorade, he mentions snacks, beverages such as Gatorade. There's a possibility that lemino or lemino and Gatorade are one and the same. So you want to know what their summary and recommendation was? Recommendation set about an immediate plan now where this child may meet and understand that her real daddy is Joseph Ryan and Charles Vallow. Continue a brief period of counseling to help Mr. Ryan and his family move on through this reunification process. B. Instruct the biological mother to cease any and all communication and chats with this child about Daddy Joe being a molester. She should submit and successfully complete a complete psychiatric and psychosexual evaluation. She should have supervised visits until this case can be more clearly understood. C. Tylee is a very young child, but not that young. She needs to be with her father for long rehabilitative times to make up for the emotional trauma of this volatile and not so private periods of accusations against her father. She should have contact with her father's family. Diagnostic formulations. Okay, that goes on. They think that there's no access to for Joe, but they think that biological mother, they need to rule out histrionic and borderline personality disorder. Rule out religious values that are bordering on fanaticism and the potential impact of 4 years of unverified complaints and investigations of child sexual abuse against this child. How can this not come in? That back in the day that they're already tagging her as possibly histrionic and borderline? I know that people don't want to hear about this stuff. They do not want to hear about things having to do with the children, and I totally get that. But you got to understand that these documents, it's a history. It's showing somebody's history. Rule out stepbrother Colby need for intense and thorough investigations of sexual abuse against him and by him against others. He may very well be the key to understanding the problems in this case. I mean, it just goes on about there's some bizarre accusations. And I don't know if she even believes that Colby maybe wasn't also coerced. I don't know. Lastly, Ms. Vallow generally believes her child is in danger. However, her belief system is riddled with ghosts and seemingly fanatical religious dogma. Vivian, you nailed her. You nailed this way back in 2007. She continues. Her belief that Mr. Terry, may he rest in peace, visits her at night borders on visual and auditory hallucinations. But this examiner is not an expert in her religion and wants to give her as much benefit of the doubt as possible, but not at the expense of this little girl's relationship with her father. At this time, Tylee does not even know Joseph Ryan is her father. This comes from the mother and most likely the new stepfather. She has lost touch with that belief system and the opinions of others until she finds someone who will agree that Tylee has been abused. And to just skip to the end, based on the data of this case and the experience of this examiner, the child Tylee Ryan should be reunited with her biological father at the earliest possible time, now today, at the very time of this reading. A trained and interested professional should follow this work to be of assistance to the child and the father and to watch out for the safety of this child and of her older half-brother. Respectfully submitted, Vivian Lewis. Guys, I mean, that is stunning. So then we go to August 5th, 2007. Keep in mind what I just read to you that happened in July of 2007. So seemingly the reports are coming back looking like Joe is not a child sexual abuser, or he doesn't have proclivities to be one. And I'm sure the court is also starting to look at that. And so August 5th, 2007 rolls around and Alex Cox attacks Joe Ryan with a stun gun when Joe is leaving the kids' exchange after a supervised visit. He's charged with aggravated assault, which is a second-degree felony. So Alex Cox pleads guilty. He does jail time for this crime, and he's ordered to pay $5,000 in restitution. There's also some letters that are all over the internet where he's in jail at this time, right after this, when he's doing his jail time, and trying to get Joe Ryan's license plate number, and in another letter talking about, give me some more information, like his address, because some people would like to meet him. In other words, he's kind of threatening, like looking to get information to get people to hurt or pester or stalk or something Joe Ryan. That's scary. So Alex isn't letting it go as he sits in jail for his crime. October 10th, 2007, there's a grand jury convened in the Hayes County District Court. The district attorney took Colby's case against Joe to the grand jury. Usually they do that if they're not sure that they have enough. So they have the grand jury decide, and what happens is the grand jury no-billed it. So the indecency with a child by sexual contact, the grand jury said there wasn't enough evidence to support the charges. So no bill on Joe Ryan, October 2007. So you got to think, this has gone on. There's been accusations that Joe Ryan was inappropriate with Colby, that Joe Ryan was inappropriate with Tylee. And now the court, seemingly, it didn't go anywhere. Those accusations weren't found to have any supporting evidence, even for the grand jury to even move forward. And so we're going into February 2008, and Joe Ryan is still going, and they're passing Tylee back and forth through the kids exchange, which is just like, I guess, a drop off, a program in place. You have supervisors, and one parent drops off and the other parent picks up. And it's got supervisors, guys. And so Joe is allegedly followed during his kids exchange. You got to keep in mind he's already been attacked by Lori's brother, and Lori's brother was in jail for 3 months, allegedly 90 days. I don't know if he did all 90, but he definitely was in for 30 days following this fracas where I wouldn't even call it a fracas because that implies that the victim fought back. There was no fighting. He stun gunned Joe Ryan. So basically on February 28th, Joe Ryan's followed again after he picks up Tylee for the kids exchange. And so he makes a motion to amend the court's order regarding the exchange with Tylee because, again, they used what was called the kids exchange to pick up Tylee for visitation. And Joe had a supervisor. And Joe and the supervisor were followed by a maroon pickup truck and a white pickup truck after the pickup. And Joe calls 911 and he's transferred to the police. And then the sheriff tells him to go to a public place because these two trucks are still following him, and to park and put on the emergency flashers. And these trucks must have stuck around. I might get a little more detail on this, but what happens is the Williamson County Sheriff gets the license plate number of both these trucks that are following Joe. Like an hour later, they get the license plate number. And so Joe said that he he understood through Lori's legal counsel allegedly that this was perfectly legal. This, what he alleges to be stalking, is perfectly legal. And you got to keep in mind, is it legal to be driving around and observing a transfer? I guess it is if you don't have a restraining order, but after the fact this guy has already been attacked by Lori's brother, I would say that would be something that would be a no. So, mind you, Joe Ryan is scared because this is after Alex Cox has already gunned him. And when he fell down, he hurt his wrist, breaking his fall. On February 14th, 2008, Mary Fogel, guardian ad litem, ended up asking for an attorney ad litem. And I'm going to read a good portion of this to you. And why am I going to? Because it's another woman that has Lori's number, in my opinion. There is a history here of women getting Lori's number and figuring her out, and men not being able to see her accurately. This is my opinion. This is my hot take on it in the retrospective seat. Okay, so now we go to February 14th, 2008. Mary Fogel is the guardian ad litem, and she ends up asking for an attorney ad litem. And this letter is called the report to the court in interest of Tylee Ryan, basically. And I'm going to read this to you because, in my opinion, women are more likely to catch on to Lori Vallow shenanigans than men. The men in her life and around her seemingly get hoodwinked by her. Seemingly so far, the women are the ones to kind of not be taken in by her. So I'm going to read the second to the last paragraph. When you have the attorney ad litem Mary Fogel asking for, the guardian ad litem Mary Fogel asking for an attorney ad litem in this case of Tylee Ryan. So this is in regards to the handoff where Joe is being followed by two unknown trucks. He's already been tased in the past. He's got Tylee in the car and he's freaking out, calling the sheriff. And they're telling him to go to a safe place and turn on his lights and stuff. And then he goes home and he sees the trucks again. So this person is writing this report, and I'm reading the end of it to you. Given the information of the one visit that occurred since the order on January 11, 2008, I'm concerned that there is a heightened potential for violence and physical endangerment in this situation that could potentially involve Tylee. Two pickup trucks were observed following Mr. Ryan from Kids Exchange to his home and parking near his home during the visit. Mr. Ryan reports a threatening phone message that followed. I'm disturbed by the supervisor's report that while her father was visibly shaken, a police officer met them on the highway and they followed his directions to go to the house and keep the doors locked. Tylee had no emotional reaction at all. Essentially, while all this is going on, Tylee has no emotional reaction. I think this letter has a little bit of a sentence structure wording issue, but with a psychological indicating a high level of repressed anxiety and a history of police officers and bodyguards involved with her visitation, her emotional and mental health are at risk. Seemingly, Tylee has grown accustomed to adults who are highly upset and accustomed to police officers and bodyguards at the age of 5. I respectfully ask the court to consider appointing Tylee Ryan an attorney ad litem. My best efforts have failed, and I'm unable to affect the situation in a positive way for Tylee. There may be a need for legal action that is not in line with either parent's contention of what's best for the child. I do not believe this situation will resolve itself unless there's a strong child advocate involved with the ability to take legal action. So in other words, she didn't think that the parents could resolve this. She talks in this letter, which is really enlightening, that she was concerned about the safety and emotional stability of Tylee, and that she had a naive belief that people would settle down and work with the final order, and that she thought that Tylee would be in a less stressful situation after the case had been resolved, but the violence and the drama didn't diminish. That is so sad, guys, and that also would explain why Tylee is so checked out, even right after Charles Vallow is murdered and laying on the floor, and she's given interviews, and all the other times that we've seen Tylee on the body cam and in the police interrogation room, how she's able to handle it. She doesn't seem stressed out. It's quite shocking. And this was displayed as far back as 2008. She'd become jaded to it all. August 18th to August 21st, 2008 is the timeline. Cheryl Wheeler, Charles's ex, makes an affidavit saying that her children had been with Charles during August 18th to 21, 2008 at the Vallo home. So they were there for a visitation. And so August 19th, 2008 at 8:21 p.m., Charles calls Cheryl and tells her that Lori allegedly walked into Tylee's room at 2 a.m. in the morning and allegedly found one of the sons vigorously masturbating while laying in bed with 5-year-old Tylee. So mind you, Cheryl has already reported Colby's alleged actions with her sons. Remember? And then the cameras went in and all that stuff. And so now Lori's reporting her sons. And I ask you, was this vindictive retaliation? Because what happens is Charles and Lori go to therapy like the next day, and the therapist reports this incident to CPS by Lori's request. So all of a sudden she's popping up and getting CPS involved. And she allegedly tells Cheryl Wheeler that she didn't know what to do other than call CPS. Now, should CPS have been called for a legitimate issue? Absolutely. So what the result happens is the children, of course, go back to Cheryl's. They don't need to be over there at the Vallo residence if this shenanigans are going on. And so Cheryl asks to speak with Lori, the person that's allegedly seen this go down, on August 20th, 2008. And Lori says that Lori herself usually stays in Tylee's room until Tylee goes to sleep. But that night, Lori wanted one of Cheryl's sons to sleep with Tylee. And they thought it would be cute. And that even though the court has told them already in the previous dramas not to have the stepchildren sleeping in the same rooms. They've been directed essentially not to do that. But for some odd reason this night, Lori and Charles even allegedly said, oh yeah, go ahead and sleep in there with Tylee. And then of course, Lori allegedly catches some vigorous masturbation, if you choose to believe that. Because when Cheryl speaks with her son, he tells Cheryl, his mother, that Lori asks him to sleep in Tylee's room. So we're all agreed on that. Lori asked him to do it. But that he falls asleep in a beanbag chair. Not on the bed. He falls asleep in a beanbag chair. And then when Lori comes in and she wakes him up, she tells him to go back into his room. There's no drama, according to him. But then Lori goes in and tells this story about seeing these things. So nothing was said to the son. The son tells the mother he didn't do anything at all. And Charles, what happens is Charles believes Lori over his own son, even though it's just Lori's word against the son's word. But Charles decides he's going to believe Lori over his son, and Cheryl's affidavit cites Lori's history of making false sexual allegations. So now we're in a really hot mess. So my question to you is, did Lori do this? Set up one of the sons just so that she could get back at Cheryl for the previous accusations? This is so sick. And I know some folks are going to say, oh, it's not fair to bring this up. It's previous stuff. It has nothing to do with the current charges. It does when you're using children as pawns and making things up, in my opinion. So August 22nd, 2008, as a result of what I just told you, Cheryl Wheeler files a motion to modify the possession, access, request for extraordinary relief. She requests a TRO, a temporary restraining order. Initially, she gets an ex parte TRO, excluding Charles from the children because of all this, which is totally understandable. And on August 25th, 2008, the motion is now just restricted to Charles's access to the Vallo kids, not to go to his home or around Lori and her kids. So it's not that Charles can't see his kids. It's just that those kids don't need to be in Charles's home with the Vallo, with Lori and her kids there. All right. So Charles, what he does is he concedes to the temporary restraining order at this time because it's just kind of a hot mess, and let's figure it out. So he concedes to that, but Charles can see his kids under these conditions, that they're not with the other kids, Lori's kids, and they're not in the Vallo home, because at this point, haven't we kind of made the point that this isn't a safe situation? Then December 12th, 2008 comes, and for some reason, I don't know, there's a motion for non-suit. And a motion for non-suit is basically dropping everything, saying, I'm done. So basically, Cheryl dropped the case. I personally don't know if she was exhausted, if the money was exhausted, if she just didn't want to go back and forth with them anymore. I do not know why, but that's where we leave off on this history of this case. So that's what I have so far for the historical timeline of the family court documents, the civil court documents, the criminal court documents regarding Lori Vallow and Associates from before the time the current crimes were charged. There's a lot more out there, folks, and you can read them all in full from the different courts. Now, what I want to say is my takeaway, and I have lots of takeaways, but what I believe, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't think Lori was well way back in 95. I don't think Lori's been well for a long time. I think that she is histrionic, borderline, narcissistic. That, I think, the DSM-5, I think she fits those diagnoses. Was Colby abused? He says he was. And I tend to lean towards believing things like that, because I think that we should believe people when they come forth. I also believe that Lori used her children as pawns. That's my opinion, and I think we see this. I think that she used her husbands as well. I think she uses everybody. I think everybody is just narcissistic feed to her, and she's like a vampire, and every human is just a way to feed her. And when she's done with you, she's completely done with you, and she will drain your last drop of blood. And that's my opinion, and I think we see that with all her husbands. So thank you so much for sticking through this. If you've gotten this far, it's tough information, but if you think that this won't come out as a mitigating factor in a penalty phase, you'll be surprised that it might come out. It could be used either way. It could be used to show a manipulating side of her as a aggravating factor, and it could be used as a mitigating factor to show how unwell Lori has been for so many years. Hallucinations? I wouldn't say I hope you enjoyed this video. I wouldn't say it's enjoyable. I think it might have enlightened some folks that haven't read the case files, and there's more out there. So anyway, if you found this enlightening, push the like button, please, and hit subscribe. And without further ado, have an excellent day.